Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Friday. Yeah, boy. Man, I'm excited as always on a Friday. Welcome to it. This is Vuka Nazo, your morning news analysis show. My name is Sihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. A reminder, every Friday on the show we have either a champ of the week or a Moemish of the week. Look out for that towards the end of the show. But before we get into any of that, a reminder to you that if you're watching the simulcast either on Facebook or YouTube, do me a favor, hit that like button and share this stream. Help me grow my audience and my numbers. If it is on YouTube in particular, then subscribe to the channel. The numbers are growing quite steadily, and thank you for that as we march our way to that goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And also remember, we have a website at bigdaddyliberty.com. There, of course, you can pledge some financial support to the show. Guys, I'm wholly dependent on you. Anything between 50 to 100 Rand a month, 75 Rand per month per person is what I'm ordinarily doing. And it's folks like you who are supporting my work, my show, and of course, the liberty advocacy that we do. Remember, find a payment method that suits you on our website at bigdaddyliberty.com. Now, with that jibber jabber out the way, let's get straight into the news. All right, we begin here this morning with a bit of a follow-up from yesterday's story. You remember, of course, we spoke about the electricity minister, the new electricity minister, Ukhosi Ramakgopa, basically who's doing a tour of power stations at the moment and giving comment to the media, basically suggested, well, you know, load shedding, it's not caused by corruption. It's rather technical issues that cause load shedding. Here's a reminder of what he said.
So all I know is that the problems with regards to the challenges that we have had here, these are technical problems. They have nothing to do with the so-called corruption.
What? Yes, even as he says that, the court cases around the corruption at Eskom, indeed the money laundering at Eskom, and I'll show you two examples today. The first, I take you to Mpumalanga, where indeed a Eskom employee, former Eskom employee presumably, is facing very serious charges after a Hawks investigation. The employee in question is a one Tandega Nkosi, a 42-year-old woman. She was, of course, a buyer at one of the power stations in Mpumalanga, facing various charges and appearing in the Hendrina Magistrates Court on Wednesday this week, which is ironic. That same electricity minister, no corruption, he says. And even as he's saying that, there are Eskom employees and former management who are facing charges in court, as I mentioned. Laughable situation. Now, this woman, of course, is allegedly having defrauded and cheated Eskom out of as much as 14.7 million Rand. That's nearly 15 million Rand. Nice job, that, if you can get it, for the corrupt, of course. And, you know, she's said as part of the investigation to have been colluding with other individuals within Eskom and others. 4 other people indeed have been arrested for the case, and of course the accused remain in custody as the investigation continues. This is the very corruption that causes load shedding. I'm going to say that again so that the Minister of Electricity, Mr. It's Alive, can actually hear me as I say this. Corruption is at the heart of load shedding in this country. But as I said, I'll make the case, I'll make the argument. It begins from the even lowliest, if you will, of employees at Eskom right to the top. And who is at the top? Indeed, also this week, appeared before court facing serious charges of having defrauded and stolen from Eskom. Why? The former acting CEO of Eskom, in KOKO, of course, appearing with 7 other accomplices who are also senior managers at Eskom, facing charges amongst others of fraud, corruption, money laundering, indeed relating to a multi-billion Rand tender at Eskom that they entered into in 2015. Now, let me read, as I said, from this EWN piece, which reminded us of this matter and of course told us about the court appearance as follows. Now, MATSHELA, KOKO and 7 others, which include, get this, his wife and 2 stepdaughters. It's a family corrupt business, allegedly. But anyway, were charged by the investigative directorate. Now, again, the charges relate to a multi-billion Rand contract that Eskom entered into with a Swiss engineering company in 2015, almost Also, rather, among the accused were former South African Local Government Association CEO Thabo Mokoena, Eskom Project Director at Kusile Power Station Franz Sithole, lawyer Johannes Kotia, and of course businessman Watson Setswai. End of quote. Ha ha! Got him!
Gotcha, bitch!
These are the individuals who I said, and I told you I'd make the argument, from the very bottom of the hierarchy of Eskom to the very top, are defrauding this institution, stealing from it. And of course it matters because Eskom, with it being the sole provider of electricity in this country, then also becomes a single point of failure. So if Eskom is corrupted and broken by those who work in it and the political elites and politicians who benefit from this corruption, then it affects the entire country, because Eskom has been positioned by politicians on purpose to be the single provider of electricity and thus a single point of failure. The only way to beat load shedding, Mr. Electricity Minister, is firstly admitting the problem. Corruption is at the center of why we have load shedding and why Eskom is collapsing. We need three things. Number one, a strong emphasis on the rule of law and order. Indeed, law enforcement rather within Eskom. Clean that institution up. Let there be more investigations, arrests, and people behind bars facing justice. That's the first thing. The second thing you do, and you do all of this simultaneously, you can chew gum and walk at the same time, is you break up Eskom into 2 or 3 distinct companies. The first is Eskom as a transmission company. In other words, the company that looks after the power lines and make sure that the power reaches from the power plants to cities and towns. That Eskom can be government owned, could not give a flying fudge. But the key part of Eskom, which is generating electricity, that part of Eskom needs to become privatized and be a part of the private sector, where every power plant that Eskom currently owns under the single company gets broken up and they become their own separate companies, private sector companies producing the electricity. And then in addition to that, the third area, inviting other private sector companies to come into this country to invest and to actually produce the electricity. And whatever the source of that electricity is, whether it's the coal, oil and gas, sorry hippies, we definitely need our fossil fuels. Absolutely, come one, come all. And if the hippies themselves want to produce that electricity with renewable solar, wind, wave, blah, 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 whatever they want to do, come one, come all. And of course, my preferred future, of course, of a clean source of energy is nuclear. Nuclear energy, inviting in private sector companies who have expertise on this to actually produce the nuclear energy for us in this country. It's safe. We've been having nuclear energy in this country, and this should be the energy mix in the future of South African energy, free of the corruption that the electricity minister denies. All right, it is that exciting time on every Friday edition of Vuka Nazo where we have either a champ of the week, someone who's done something great, laudable, a heroic act, or a Moemish of the week, someone who's made a blunder in the week, or indeed a loser. What do we have this week? We have a Moemish, and our Moemish of the week is Julius Malema and the EFF. What a Moemish. And why is it Julius Malema and the EFF our Moemish of the week? Well, because they've had a really terrible week. From, of course, on Monday, their failed shutdown that didn't shut the country down, and instead the EFF met the reality, the real reality, that living in a revolutionary theory echo chamber where Malema's voice is the loudest voice in there, met up with the reality of 90% of South Africans who reject the EFF. Yes, that's right. Remember, the EFF is only a 10% party in this country, which means 90% of the voting public do not support the EFF, nor do they even vote for the EFF. And that reality is what the EFF met on Monday, when it tried to shut down the country, only to find South Africans and indeed the police and law enforcement waiting to show them what's what. Watch this.
few moments later.
Yep, that's right. Again, South Africans, I'm not condoning the violence, but I'm definitely condoning the idea that the EFF were warned ahead of the shutdown that South Africans and indeed the police themselves will have a fatni kakni attitude towards communists trying to intimidate the public or to shut down the businesses. And the EFF learned that lesson a very hard way. Another lesson that the EFF learned this week, a Moemish of note, was at the courts, where the Constitutional Court also gave Julius Malema and the EFF a bitch slap, basically saying and affirming a previous judgment that said the EFF and Malema are not allowed to incite people to invade land illegally. You remember we've covered this issue before. Indeed, Malema was Moemish of the week last time for that too. This time he tried to appeal that ruling at the Constitutional Court, the highest court in the country, and that court said no, actually, you dumb communist, you're not allowed to do that. And this is what the court actually said, as I read from this News 24 piece. Now, the Con Court upheld an interdict preventing the party and its leader, Julius Malema, from encouraging citizens to invade unoccupied land. You'll remember that AfriForum acquired the interdict in 2017 after Malema had, between 2014 and 2016, encouraged, quote, landless South Africans to unlawfully occupy lands. Now, this of course comes as a significant legal blow after a 6-year court battle, losing of course, as I said, at the Constitutional Court. End of quote. A terrible week for Malema and the EFF, as they've been sent packing by South Africans with their tail between the leg, and it's fully deserved. Julius Malema and the EFF are our deserved Moemish of the week. All right, that's it from this episode of Vuka Nazo, the Friday edition. I hope you enjoy your weekend. Before you do that, please, on your way out, hit that like button and share the stream, of course. And if you're watching on YouTube in particular, please subscribe to the channel. Help me grow my numbers. A reminder to you that we've got a website. Find us, please, at bigdaddyliberty.com. There, of course, you can also pledge some financial support towards the show. Remember, all the links of the stories that we discuss are in the descriptor of this video, so make sure you check them out. And with that being said, have a fantastic weekend. Shabbat Shalom to those who are observant, and I'll catch you on Sunday at 8 p.m. for an episode of Liberty and Friends, when it's the one long format show that I have where we wrap up the news week that was with a Friends panel. Eminent voices who give you solid analysis that you'll get nowhere else. If I don't see you on Sunday, I'll see you therefore next week, Monday, bright and early from 7 a.m. weekdays for another episode of Vuka Nazo.